Hey everybody, I'm Galinxie and welcome to my very first video. This is going to be about a science teacher I had once upon a time, so just sit back and enjoy. Okay, so bit of backstory before we start. My science class was a little bit of a roller coaster. I and some others liked the teacher towards the beginning of the year, but as the days dragged on, our patience ran out. She was rather arrogant, if I had to use a word to describe her. She didn't understand technology in the slightest, and we'd spend a good amount of time watching her fumble around with a YouTube video, too impatient to just wait a minute for it to load. She did that thing where you'd pause and unpause it repeatedly as if that would help somehow. We'd tell her just to give it a second, and she'd stand there, arms crossed, like kind of pouting at us. Once it finally loaded and stopped buffering, she'd have it pause because she clicked it too many times and would just sit there waiting for it to play, except, of course, it didn't, because it was paused. Once it did start playing, she would leave the mouse over the play/pause button, so the stupid bar menu thing would be up the whole video. Now, when I say she was arrogant, I don't mean that she was confident in her ability to teach or how well she knew the subject, no. If it was just that, there'd be no issue at all. However, no matter how many times she'd mess something up or how badly, she would never admit her own faults, even when they practically slapped her in the face. The pause video thing, we tried to tell her it's paused and she'd be like, no, it isn't, without even looking at it. Once she did look and saw that it was paused, she wouldn't go, oh, it is paused, my mistake, here, and play it. No. She would just go, oh, I thought it was playing, and then unpause it and not acknowledge that we were right in the first place. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, Galinxie, that's just a minor thing. Doesn't make her a bad teacher, and normally I'd agree with you. However, now this one is a relatively minor thing, but I'm still caught up on it, and I'm gonna bring it up. You know raisins, right? Dried grapes, right? Well, one day she said a raisin is just a dehydrated grape. If we put it in water for long enough, it'll expand back into a grape, which, no. The second she said that, everyone in class gave her this look of just, really? Regardless, she took out this little tiny beaker, plopped a single raisin in it, and just stared at it for a few seconds. Once, as you could guess, nothing happened, she goes, well, maybe it just needs some time. Now, we had this class every other day, so when we came back 2 days later, we were all looking for the little beaker with the raisin in it. And where was it? Nowhere. We asked her about it, and she just went, oh, it must have gotten thrown out when the room was getting cleaned. Yeah, no. Like, the custodians aren't stupid. They're not going to throw out a raisin in a beaker in a science classroom. It might be a dumb experiment, but they aren't going to throw it out. Again, a relatively minor thing. But here's another one. So, we only had like 20 kids in our class, and I know names can be hard, but there were 3 boys she could not get the names of right. Like, let's say their names were Alex, Oliver, and Noah. Always, without fail, she would mess up their names. These kids didn't even look alike. They were all different heights, different body shapes, different face shapes, but no, talking to Alex calls him Noah. Talking to Noah calls him Oliver. Talking to Oliver calls him Alex. Not Alex, Noah then. Not Noah. Everyone kind of adjusted to it after a while, but you get the idea. She couldn't be bothered to correct herself even when she was clearly wrong. Now, given that we saw her every other day, this class lasted all year. 2 whole semesters of this. So we had plenty of time to get through everything we needed to know for the final. So what did we do for the first semester? The science fair. Now, nobody wanted to do this thing. This wasn't something the school required. This wasn't something that happened during school hours. No, this stupid thing was counted as a project grade, and it was after school. If we weren't able to attend, we had to let her know by a certain date in advance, and you had to have a valid reason. Now, some people were on various sports teams, and one girl in particular had a basketball game. This shouldn't have been a problem, but the coach didn't tell her that until the day after we had to let the teacher know. And the teacher didn't think that the game was a valid reason to miss the science fair. And again, this normally wouldn't be an issue, if not for the fact that this girl was one of the 2 captains of her team. Lucky for her, the teacher agreed to have her board looked at first, and she got to escape to her game. Now, my class was just standing there, mumbling through our presentations and clearly wanting to leave, while surrounded by actual science nerds who clearly put more time and effort into their work. After the night of the fair, she mentioned that, "Oh, your projects were so good," which they weren't because we didn't care or try at all. And, "Oh, maybe you'll get to go to the other location, the next round of the fair, essentially." And as it turns out, one group did go. They didn't go any further than the second location, but they still wasted an entire weekend completely against their wills. We spent a good amount of time on the science fair and then kept sort of lazing about until roughly a month before our final exam. We had just scarcely gotten through our final unit when we started reviewing. So, in my history class, we reviewed for our final exam by going back through the units bit by bit. Our teacher let us work on our own, and then we went over it together to correct anything we might have got wrong. What did we do to review for science? Well, we started with a 90-word vocab packet all at once, and we didn't even get to do it on our own and then go over it. No, she handed it out to us, sat everyone down, and proceeded to spend roughly an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, it was broken up over several class periods, on this one packet. There weren't even images to make it somewhat interesting. It was just word after word after word. Our hands all started to ache from writing so much, but we just kept going. After that 90-word packet, we got another packet that was maybe 200 questions long. More than that, if I recall correctly. We weren't even answering the questions, and what did we have to do? Make a Kahoot with every single question. It was boring. But you know what? We suffered through. We did as much as we could, worked on it for a week or so. Nobody finished it completely, but when we were all done, we were pretty excited. Finally, we could do something else. No. Right after we finished, she found the person who had made the longest Kahoot, maybe 150 questions long, and made us all play it. We did Kahoots for days. They're fun now and again, or as a vocab review before a test maybe, but these were every single class. They were long, and they all had the same questions in the same order. Naturally, we got tired of them really fast. The breaking point was the day before the test. Now, my school has 4 class periods in a day, each class an hour and a half long. Because of the program I was in, my first 2 class blocks could be switched between 5 of my classes. It was really weird. But all you really need to know is that the first 2 blocks were designated as review time for the test. I was the first one to get to class that day, and when I walked in, I was met with confusion. She looked up at me from her desk and asked, "Why are you here? You don't have me today," which, were we on the usual schedule, would be correct. But it wasn't the normal schedule, it was the study day. So I say, our 3-hour study block for the final tomorrow? And she goes, oh, right. Just go to your usual class, I'll be there in a bit." So I just shrug and go to the computer lab. As I pass some of my classmates, they're confused and they tell me, "We have science today," and I tell them what she told me. They just kind of shrug along with me because it's not the first time our schedule has made just absolutely no sense whatsoever. It was fairly common, actually. So we get to the computer lab and the teacher goes, "Don't you have science today?" And again, we just shrug and go, "We have no clue," and that's the end of that conversation. Thank you to anyone who made it this far. I'm so sorry to have to cut this short, but keeping this in small parts is easier for me to manage. If you enjoyed this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe so you know when the second part comes out. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me again next time.